What's going on, gamers? It's Phil H here from Beneath the Veil and welcome back to the channel. Illusions are one of the ways in which players can look to create more units and overwhelm their enemies. Today we're going to break down all the ways in which hero skills create illusions. We'll also go over the two heroes who make clones of themselves and briefly discuss how they differ as well as how they interact with illusions. If you haven't already, make sure to watch our video where we go over Manta style and illusion runes, as we also cover general itemization which makes illusions stronger, as well as discussing what aspects of heroes and their items are actually copied over to illusions. Do keep in mind that while basic illusions can be instantly destroyed by hex effects, strong illusions and clones cannot. For those of you who struggle to understand my New Zealand accent, please feel free to enable closed captions. If you'd like an additional language added into our closed captions ecosystem, please let us know in the comments below and we will implement them for you. Sit back, relax, and let's jump into it. Anti-Mage's Shard ability Counterspell Ally creates a basic illusion on any enemy caster who casts a single target spell on Anti-Mage or his ally while they have the Counterspell shield applied to them. This illusion is indistinguishable from Anti-Mage, completely uncontrollable, and will automatically attack any enemy next to them for the 4-second duration they are summoned. These illusions deal 75% base damage and receive 100% damage, making them just as tough as the real Anti-Mage. Furthermore, anytime Anti-Mage applies Counterspell to himself, these illusions also gain the Counterspell shield. Meaning, if an enemy tries to instantly destroy these illusions with a single target hex while the counterspell shield is active, that enemy will have the hex either absorbed or reflected, and another uncontrollable illusion of Anti-Mage will appear next to the hero who cast that single target spell. When taking the Mage Bane's mirror facet, any single target damaging spell that hits a counterspell shield will be reflected and have its damage amplified by 20%. If Anti-Mage takes the Mana Thirst facet instead, then the spell will be absorbed similar to Lincoln's Sphere, but the illusion will still be created. In the same vein, the basic illusions created through Anti-Mage's Sceptre ability Blink Fragment deal 75% of Anti-Mage's base damage and take 200% damage, twice the counterspell illusion amount. However, they last a total 7 seconds, which is 3 seconds longer. These illusions can be unit cast to specifically attack a hero, or can be point cast if you want them to spawn somewhere in Fog of War and attack whatever is around them. They are uncontrollable and will seek out an enemy unit to attack when summoned through the point target cast, though this may end up in them attacking a creep unit instead of a hero if that unit is closer. As with the Shard ability illusions, if Anti-Mage casts Counterspell on himself, then these illusions will also cast Counterspell, and if Anti-Mage has access to a Shard ability, then these illusions can cause Shard illusions to spawn on an enemy. That's not complicated at all, right? Moving on. When Bane gets access to his Sceptre ability, using Fiend's Grip on an enemy spawns basic illusions 400 units either side of Bane, which also channel the full duration of Fiend's Grip alongside him. These illusions take 200% damage but can be instantly dispelled by breaking their channel, so stunning them, silencing them, hexing them, or breaking their latch on the enemy unit through something like a Wind Waker save, or a form of hiding the hero such as Shadow Demon's Disruption, Outworld Destroy's Astral Imprisonment, or Tusk's Snowball will also instantly dispel both illusions. Bane can end his own channel of Fiend's Grip early however, and the illusions will continue to channel their Fiend's Grip. Bane does lose out on the mana drain for himself as a result, so it's something to be considered. Though both illusions can be controlled, if you issue any commands to them, they will instantly end their channel and be dispelled. It can be nice to cancel Bane's channel, and he can then use items like Glimmer Cape or Ethereal Blade on his illusions to protect them while they hold the channel for him, leaving Bane available for other utility like Force Staff pushes, Nightmare saves, and sending out casts of Enfeeble and Brain Sap during a teamfight. Darkseer's two abilities Normal Punch and Wall of Replica both produce basic illusions of his enemies which are visually distinct from their heroes. They take 200% damage, however deal 70 to 100% base damage depending on levels in Darkseer's ult, and can be further increased by 20% with the level 10 talent. Normal Punch produces a single illusion which lasts for 6 seconds, whereas Wall of Replica can make an illusion of each enemy hero which lasts 30 seconds. Both of these illusion types are fully controllable by Darkseer. If an enemy kills the illusions of themselves created through Wall of Replica, and then make contact with the wall again, another illusion of that hero will be created. Darkseer players should be cognizant of their wall orientation to ensure they maximize the amount of time enemies are in contact with the wall, and subsequently maximize the time his illusions can deal damage. Do take note that if leveraging a Refresher Orb or Refresher Shard, each instance of Wall of Replica will have its own tracker of active illusions per hero, so it's possible to create 2 illusions of every enemy hero at once with some smart wall placement and vacuum casts, and then create a 3rd illusion of a single hero with Normal Punch. Wall of Replica will not form an illusion if an illusion unit walks through the wall, but Darkseer can punch an illusion to make a temporary copy. If he does, the damage his illusion will have himself will be in line with if he had made it of the hero themselves. Do take note that when pulling clone heroes like Warden or Meepo through the wall of replica, the Dark Seer will only make a single copy of each of those heroes, despite how many clones are pulled through. When Hoodwink gains her Sceptre ability Decoy, she goes invisible for 6 seconds, leaving in her place an uncontrollable and visually indistinct basic illusion, which begins channeling a sharpshooter ultimate. If the illusion is dealt any damage, whether that be an attack or a spell, it is instantly destroyed and sends out a reduced damage bushwhack with a pre-planted tree to the location of the hero that cancelled the effect. If the decoy is not destroyed, then at the end of the duration it shoots out a reduced damage sharpshooter. Shadow Demon's facet, Shadow Servant, creates a basic illusion of any enemy who dies within 1500 radius of Shadow Demon. If Shadow Demon lands the killing blow, an illusion will be created of the hero regardless of their distance from him. This illusion takes 200% damage and deals 20 to 40% base damage depending on how many points Shadow Demon has in Disruption. These illusions last until the enemy hero respawns or Shadow Demon himself dies. If Shadow Demon is dead when a hero dies to his effects, then an illusion will not be created. Should an enemy buy back, this counts as respawning and the illusion of them will be dispelled. When using Disruption on himself, an ally, or an enemy, Shadow Demon banishes that unit for 2.75 seconds, and once emerged, Shadow Demon creates 2 basic illusions of whichever unit he banished. These basic illusions are visually indistinguishable from the hero they're produced from, except for the nameplate above the hero being a different color. They are controllable by Shadow Demon, taking 300% damage, and dealing between 20 to 50% base damage depending on how many levels in Disruption Shadow Demon has. His illusions also have an additional 30 to 60 base damage depending on how many levels he has. This math shakes out to an additional 6 damage at level 1, 12 at level 2, 20 at level 3, and 30 when maxed out. Duration scales between 11 to 14 seconds per point in Disruption. Banishing a unit does not disjoint projectiles, however banished units are invulnerable to all damage except from Shadow Demon's spells, so if a damaging effect is mid-travel when you apply the Disruption, you will negate the damage and any associated status effect going through, even if the damaging effect is coming from an ally. Shadow Demon can stack additional charges of Shadow Poison on an enemy while inside the banishing effect of Disruption, however he cannot target enemies with Demonic Purge or allies with Demonic Cleanse due to them being hidden from him. If Disruption is cast on an ally or enemy who is the target of Shadow Demon's second skill, Disseminate, the duration of that effect will be paused during the banishment period and will resume when they emerge. For more info on how Disseminate actually works, check out Adrian's video, which is linked in the cards as well as in the description for an explanation. Do also note that Shadow Demon can cast Disruption on illusions, which will create illusions for Shadow Demon based on the base stats of the main hero. Though if the unit, real or illusion, dies while inside the banishment, Shadow Demon will not make any illusions. This extends to illusions created through a Shadow Servant facet as well, and damage will be calculated based on if you had disrupted the real hero. At max level, Shadow Demon's Disruption gives his illusions an uptime of 70%, and at level 25 with the 2 charges of Disruption talent, he can have 100% uptime on his own illusions if he creates illusions of his own illusions. This strategy can be helpful in hastening the speed at which your team pushes objectives while the enemy cannot defend, but it is worth weighing up whether it's better to save charges of Disruption for saves though. Do keep in mind that with Shadow Demon's innate ability Menace, that illusions created of himself will also apply the stacking 2% amplified damage debuff, so this can be leveraged to quickly build up additional stacks, priming a target to be bursted off the back of Demonic Purge's damage, built up stacks of Shadow Poison, or even an ally's burst damage spells or items. Spectre's Shadow Step and Haunt abilities both produce uncontrollable basic illusions, which are visually identical to the enemy. These illusions take 200% damage. Shadow Step deals between 40 to 80% base damage depending on how many points are in it, whereas Haunt illusions have 80% base damage as soon as it's unlocked with Sceptre. The illusion from Shadow Step lasts between 5 to 7 seconds, depending on level, whereas Haunt lasts for 7 seconds. Spectre also gains access to 30% extra damage with her 25 talent, which boosts both abilities up to 110% base damage at max level. Using her Reality sub-ability, she can instantly exchange places with any of her uncontrollable basic illusions, provided they are still alive to do so. She is able to do this multiple times during each Shadow Step and Haunt duration if needed, however she cannot haunt between illusions she may spawn through Mantis Style or illusion runes, or have made of her by her allies or enemies. As of 7.36, Spectre's innate ability Spectral now means that Spectre and all illusions created of her are permanently phased so are able to move through other units without issue. Grimstroke can make an illusion of any enemy he chooses once he gains access to his Sceptre ability Dark Portrait. These visually distinct strong illusions take 350% damage, but deal a whopping 150% of their base damage. In addition, they are debuff immune, have 30% bonus movement speed, as well as 95% bonus magic resistance, meaning that physical damage heroes need to focus the illusion down, as spellcasters can't control it with spells or items, nor nuke it down efficiently. They last for a massive 25 seconds if left unkilled, and when cast on a pair of enemies under the effects of Soulbind, Grimstroke makes a strong illusion of both enemy heroes. Should Grimstroke use Dark Portrait on an enemy illusion, his illusion's damage will be calculated as if it had been cast on the main hero. When Morphling gains his Sceptre ability, he can alternate cast his Morph Ultimate to make a visually distinct strong illusion of any enemy hero. This illusion can be fully controlled but cannot be instantly killed. The illusion is fully controllable, and Morphling can use any of their basic skills as if they were a real hero. Morphling also gains access to these heroes' upgraded Shard and Sceptre abilities, provided he has each item himself, even if the enemy does not. The illusion takes 300% damage, but deals 100% base damage itself. At any point, Morphling can recast Morph, and provided the illusion is alive, he will instantly take the place of the strong illusion, destroying it in the process. When Vengeful Spirit gains her Aghanim Scepter, she gains access to the upgraded effect of Vengeance Aura. Upon death, a visually distinct strong illusion of Vengeful Spirit takes her place in the exact position she died with full HP and mana. This illusion takes 100% damage and also deals 100% base damage. It can be fully controlled with spells and items, but cannot be instantly killed. This illusion has access to all of Vengeful Spirit's abilities and passive bonuses through items, however activatable items are unusable. All abilities are off cooldown at the point of the strong illusion being summoned, so Vengeful Spirit can use a full round of spells for free as soon as a strong illusion is spawned. Vengeful Spirit's strong illusion can gain golden experience for her while she's dead. However, as soon as a strong illusion perishes, she no longer gains that benefit. The duration of the strong illusion is based on Vengeful Spirit's regular death timer for that point in the game. Should she respawn at the end of the illusion's duration, Vengeful Spirit takes the place of her strong illusion, bringing any items she may have purchased while dead along with her. If Vengeful Spirit is brought back and then died, the strong illusion will last until the point that Vengeful Spirit would normally respawn, and then perishes while she pays the time penalty for dying after having brought back. Do note that while Vengeance Aura grants additional damage to allies based on base damage, the illusion of Vengeful Spirit does not benefit from this and only deals base damage. If you're finding this video helpful along with the other videos on our channel, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It's a small gesture which costs you nothing but helps us immensely. Thank you to the almost 6,000 of you that have done so already, and thanks in advance to those of you who haven't yet for taking a moment to consider doing so. Let's get back to it. Chaos Knight is kind of janky as of 7.36, so bear with us. If for some reason Chaos Knight takes his irrationality facet, then all of his illusions are basic illusions, making him hard countered by Dazzle with Shard or Lion with the 250 AoE Hex talent as discussed in our Hex video. However, it is still standard at present to take the Phantasmagoria facet, which makes all illusions of Chaos Knight behave as strong illusions as they used to. Under Phantasmagoria, all allied illusions Chaos Knight creates, of himself or his allies, have 20% damage reduction while within 1200 radius of him. All of his Phantasm illusions deal a full 100% base damage, but take 350% damage in exchange. The illusion created through his Shard effect on Chaos Bolt, however, lasts 6 seconds, which cannot be increased. This illusion also deals 30% less damage than other illusions of Chaos Knight. The duration of his Phantasm Ultimate and its Scepter upgrade, however, last for 30 seconds and can be extended a further 10 seconds with his level 25 talent. Phantasm allows Chaos Knight to disjoint projectiles, becoming invulnerable, hidden, and spell immune during the 0.5 second split time. He also applies a basic dispel on himself after the split duration. While the Phantasm effect on his allies creates an illusion of each of them globally, it does not grant allies the ability to disjoint projectiles, though it does provide a dispel for them. Chaos Knight has full control of the illusions created of his allies, however he does not gain access to their spells in the way that Morphling and Vengeful Spirit do. Do keep in mind that due to Chaos Knight's innate Reigns of Chaos, that any hero making illusions of Chaos Knight has a 50% chance to spawn an additional illusion of him, regardless of if they are an ally or enemy. This innate is shared by illusions of Chaos Knight, so heroes like Darkseer, Shadow Demon, and Grimstroke will always have a 50% chance to spawn an additional illusion of Chaos Knight at any point in the game. Based on the wording of the extended description, however, it seems that only illusions created by Chaos Knight specifically have the 20% damage reduction applied to them while within his aura. So an allied Shadow Demon, for example, may not find the same value on tankiness of his illusions, specifically in comparison to Chaos Knight. Terrorblade's reflection creates visually distinguishable, invulnerable, and uncontrollable illusions of any enemies in the 400 AoE of the spell, regardless of whether he has line of sight on their heroes or not. In order to create copies of invisible units, you do need true sight in the area, however, or an illusion will not be created of them. If casting reflection on a group of illusions, the spell will not create any copies except for if the real hero is in the AoE, so this can be a way for Terrorblade to help his team sniff out where the real hero is and kill them, since reflection illusions are invulnerable. Reflection illusions last for 5 seconds, and the spell has a cooldown of 23 to 14 seconds, depending on leveling, with a 4-second cooldown reduction talent at level 10. The illusions slow enemy move speed and attack speed by 15 to 30%, and deal 40 to 100% base damage depending on the level of the spell. At level 15, Terrorblade gets a talent which increases all of these values by 10%. These illusions have free pathing and move at hasted move speed during their summon duration. Terrorblade's Conjure Image creates visually distinct basic illusions. These illusions take 275% damage, but deal 30 to 60% base damage with an additional 10% with his level 10 talent. The cooldown of this spell is 16 seconds at all levels, while the duration of these illusions is 34 seconds. Though with a level 20 talent, it can be extended a further 10 seconds. These illusions will transform to imitate Terrorblade's metamorphosis state, so long as they remain within 1200 units of the main hero and the metamorphosis duration is active, as will illusions created through both an illusion rune and Manta Styles mirror image. If any of these illusions leave the range, or Terrorblade dies, then these units will revert to a copy of his melee form. Any allies or enemies making illusions of Terrorblade will only get access to his metamorphosis state if they make illusions of him or any of his illusions while the ranged form is active. Otherwise, they will be restricted to copies of his melee form, even if he switches to his ranged form after their illusions are created. Do keep in mind that any heroes who make a copy of Terrorblade in its metamorphosis state will get the full benefit of that form for the entire duration of their illusion, despite the duration of Terrorblade's own metamorphosis state when the illusion is created. As of 7.36 and the introduction of Terrorblade's Dark Unity innate ability, any illusions under Terrorblade's control will gain an additional 25% base damage while within 1200 units of him, but will have their damage reduced by 50% should they leave the radius. This AoE is the same radius as the Metamorphosis transformation range, so with the persistent range indicators in DOTA Labs, you can hold Alt and right-click Metamorphosis to have a permanent ring around your main hero, so you can maximize the range of these illusions while still getting full damage of them through Dark Unity. With the introduction of the Soul Fragment facet, Terrorblade is able to produce full health illusions through Conjure Image, but sacrifices 15% of his current HP in the process. At present, this facet is performing slightly better than his Condemned facet, despite being picked almost as much. For those adept at micro who can make the Conjure Image illusions tank for Terrorblade while farming in the earlier game stages, this may be the better strategy to explore if stronger illusion heroes like Chaos Knight, Naga Siren, and Phantom Lancer aren't available. As mentioned in our video on Manta Style, Naga Siren's illusion creating spell is also called Mirror Image. Upon cast, Naga Siren is hidden for a half second, allowing her to disjoint incoming projectiles and dodge single instance damaging spells and AoE effects. Once emerged from the hidden state, she has a basic dispel applied to her and is flanked by 3 illusions of herself which are visually indistinguishable from herself to the enemy. These illusions take 350% damage at all levels, but their base damage increases from 25 to 40% with more levels in the skill. At level 15, Naga Siren can choose between reducing the amount of damage her mirror image illusions take by 50% down to 300%, or she can increase their damage by 10%, raising their damage to 35 to 50% depending on level. At level 20, Naga Siren has the option to access a talent which grants an additional illusion when casting the spell. The duration of these illusions is 26 seconds at all levels, and the cooldown of the spell varies between 40 to 25 seconds, eventually becoming a 100% uptime spell depending on its level. At level 25, Naga Siren gains access to a talent which reduces the cooldown of Mirror Image to 15 seconds. However, casting Mirror Image again while illusions from the spell are active will dispel those illusions and make a new group of 3 or 4 illusions depending on whether you have the 20 talent or not. Any allied illusions of Naga Siren, whether created by her, a cast of Manta Style, an illusion rune, Shadow Demon's Disruption, or Chaos Knight's Scepter upgrade, will all collectively count towards triggering instances of Riptide and will provide the damaging AoE and armor reduction around them all simultaneously if she chooses that facet. Alternatively, if she takes Deluge, then any allied illusions of her will also trigger Deluge and an AoE around them when she activates the ability. Enemies making illusions of Naga Siren or any of her allied illusions will gain the ability ability to proc instances of Riptide, but theirs will be on an independent counter. If she takes Deluge, however, then they will have no access to that ability. Do keep in mind that with the introduction of her innate ability Eelskin, that any allied illusion of Naga Siren increases her and her illusion's evasion by 6%. At max level with the 20 talent for an additional mirror image illusion, this gets her to base evasion of 24%. With Mantis style illusions as well, that increases to 36%, and then with Shadow Demon or Chaos Knight making illusions of her, that can go just shy of or upwards of 50% evasion, then being further increased to a max of 70 to 78% evasion with Butterfly as well. Since evasion works on illusions, it can make Naga Siren's Legion of Illusions impossible to kill without utilizing spells. Phantom Lance's Spirit Lance sends out a projectile which upon impact spawns a visually indistinguishable basic illusion, though it has a distinct golden yellow hue to you and your allies, though it is not the brightest. This illusion lasts between 2 to 8 seconds depending on the level of the spell. This illusion takes 400% damage but deals 20% base damage. When upgrading the ability through Aghanim Scepter, Spirit Lance now bounces to an additional unit within the 750 range of the initial target, prioritizing heroes, and spawns an additional illusion at both locations. The base damage of these illusions is also upgraded to 50% total. When Phantom Lancer casts Doppelganger, he, along with any established illusions under his control within 900 range, vanish from the battlefield for a full second. During this time, he fully disjoints all active projectiles and is immune to any single instance damaging or AoE spells cast during that window. Upon emerging, a basic dispel is cast on him and all of his illusions, and he is additionally joined by 2 distinct illusions, which are indistinguishable to the enemy but are visually distinct to you and your allies based on their golden yellow hue. Since his character is thematically German, these specific illusions are referred to as Eins, which translates to the number 1, and Zwei, which as expected is number 2. Each of these illusions has different properties. Eins is the brightest of the two, so you and your allies can discern him from the other illusions Phantom Lancer creates. Eins has 0% base damage, but takes 100% damage in exchange. Despite dealing no damage, he is able to spawn illusions as per Phantom Lancer's ultimate juxtapose, and the illusions Eins creates will deal damage. Due to Eins taking 100% damage, he is significantly tankier than every other illusion Phantom Lancer creates, and can be used to bait enemies to chase him, so the real Phantom Lancer can follow up by making an escape attempt in another direction himself. This bait can be sold even better with an allied dazzle using Shallow Grave on Eins in order to get the enemy to commit to killing the illusion. Zwei, by comparison, deals 20% base damage, but takes 600% damage in exchange, so is a lot more fragile. Both of these illusions last 8 seconds at all levels, and the cooldown of Doppelganger ranges from 22 to 10 seconds depending on PL's level, giving a total uptime of 80% when maxed out. At level 25, PL gains access to a Doppelganger cooldown talent, which reduces the max level cooldown to 6 seconds, giving PL 100% uptime on the utility of Eins and Zwei. Highly skilled PL players will have both Eins and Zwei bound to custom control groups, along with each Mantis-style mirror image, so they can constantly switch between baiting with Eins and then leaving, baiting with Zwei and then Eins and then leaving, baiting with 1 or 2 Manta illusions, then Zwei, then Eins, and then leaving, or just straight up leaving once he feels he has sufficiently trained his enemies to stop chasing the first 1 or 2 illusions that leave a fight. When not playing into many hexes and other heavy lockdown, PL can do a lot of work by constantly messing with its enemies' minds through abuse of Manta style and Doppelganger. With 7.36 introducing the Convergence facet, PL will spawn additional copies of Zwei depending on how much HP he is missing. If he is at full health, then he will create a single copy of Zwei as per normal. Between 50% and 75% HP, he will create 2. Between 25% and 50% HP, he will create 3. And if below 25% HP, he will create 4 copies of Zwei. Although this facet is picked far less often than Divergence, it has a similar win rate as Immortal players get used to this utility. Juxtaposes PL's ultimate ability that ties everything together. PL and any illusions created of him have a chance to proc the ability to spawn extra illusions. For PL himself, this is a 40 to 50% chance depending on level, and for illusions this is an 8% chance. The maximum illusions that can be created by this skill per unit range from 6 to 10 depending on level. Since this max is per unit, it means each mirror image can create up to 10 illusions at once, as can each Spirit Lance illusion, as well as each spawned illusion can then spawn 10 of their own at once, though it's rare this happens. The illusions created through Juxtapose take 650% damage and deal 18 to 22% base damage depending on level. This can be increased a further 10% with the level 20 talent. Juxtapose illusions created by PL himself have a duration of 8 seconds, whereas illusions created by other illusions last for 4 seconds. Upon gaining PL Shard ability, he is able to cast Juxtapose in order to turn himself invisible for 8 seconds and leave a basic illusion in his place. While under the effect of this invisibility, he gains an additional 15% movement speed and has phased movement speed, meaning he is able to pass through other units without issue. Attacking or casting spells will break the invisibility once the attack hits or the cast point of the spell is completed, so do be aware. As with all illusion heroes, any illusions created of PL or any of his illusions will have their base damage based on PL himself, rather than the unit they were created from. With the introduction of the Divergence facet in 7.36, the illusions created through Juxtapose gain an additional 4% damage at all levels and spawn on random enemy units in a range of 700. They aim to evenly distribute themselves across all units in the AoE, but in exchange you lose the ability to control any of the illusions created through the ability. It's worth considering if you need control of your illusions to focus damage on particular heroes, or if you just want to spread out your damage as much as you can feasibly do so. At present, Divergence has a much higher overall pick rate when compared to Convergence, 73% picked compared to 26%, but the win rates are even. It's definitely worth critically thinking over at the draft phase, as if the enemy have ways of creating illusions of PL, then you want to maintain control over your Juxtapose illusions, so you can focus targets down instead of having a bunch of illusions fighting illusions created of you. Clone illusions have a unique set of interactions depending on which hero they're spawned from and which heroes and abilities they're interacting with. These are heroes that we could make multiple individual videos on, but we're just going to cover the basics of how they interact with illusions specifically, and how itemization on these heroes can differ from other standard illusion heroes. Warden is technically 2 heroes simultaneously with slightly different numbers and ability interactions. The Self and the Double or the Tempest, depending on what you want to call it. Upon reaching level 6, you can cast Tempest Double and get temporary access to your other clone for 18 to 26 seconds depending on your level. This can be extended an additional 10 seconds with a level 25 talent. Without getting into the weeds of the hero's mechanics, the important thing to know is that Warden's clone is an exception to the rule regarding damage items. If you buy items which grant damage, those numbers are fully carried over to the clone. You have full access to all active items alongside abilities. Your main hero and the clone have separate spell and item cooldown cycles and can each use Mantis style. But the illusions created from these clones are still beholden to the same rules regarding damage as other illusions. Any other heroes making illusions from either version of Warden will still have their damage predicated on the base damage of either clone. If Tempest Double is active while Chaos Knight uses his upgraded Phantasm skill, he will create an illusion of both clones. Meepo gains up to 4 clones through Divided We Stand when taking the More Meepo facet for an additional clone, but they gain 85% of Meepo's attributes instead of 100% if you take Pack Rat. Your main hero, referred to as Meepo Prime, has 6 slots, however the clones only share whatever boots Meepo Prime has equipped. They have full access to their abilities and have individual cooldown cycles, however they do not have access to their neutral item slot and only get access to their TP scroll if Meepo Prime has Boots of Travel equipped. Again, if this is the case, they have independent TP scroll cooldowns from one another. If Meepo takes the Rat Pack facet, then Meepo's clones can gain the benefits of most items that are placed into the neutral item slot. In terms of damage, they scale the same way illusions do, so benefit from attribute items on Meepo Prime, though with Rat Pack, any damage item put into the neutral item slot will carry over those damage numbers too. Other on-hit effects which do not normally apply to illusions, such as Cleave from Battle Fury, the on-hit effect of Eye of Skadi, and armor corruption effects of Blightstone and Desolator will also be transferred over to Meepo clones if they are in the neutral item slot. Similarly, since raw armor gaining items and magic resistance increasing items don't normally translate over to illusions, if Meepo Prime places an item like Assault Cuirass or Eternal Shroud into the neutral item slot, then all clones will get the full benefit of those items. Most broken of all, if Meepo puts a set of infused raindrops into the neutral item slot, then each clone gets their own individual stack of 6 charges, which is independent from Meepo Prime. If the enemy burns through all 6 stacks of a clone's raindrops, but Meepo Prime still has charges, you can swap the raindrops out of the Rat Pack slot and then back in to replenish the charges on your clones for free. This may be patched out soon, but it's there if you want to use it. In a similar vein, if Meepo has Lincoln Sphere in his Rat Pack slot, then each clone has their own single target spell absorption effect, and it's only the ability to give that protection to other units which is affected by a shared cooldown. We'll leave a pinned comment with the few items which don't carry over their on-hit effects to Meepo's clones under this video. When making illusions of Meepo, any allied Meepo illusion, whether that be an illusion rune, Mantis style, Shadow Demon's disruption, or Chaos Knight's upgraded Phantasm effect, can be poofed onto by Meepo Prime and all clones. Any enemy illusions made of Meepo cannot be interacted with in this way for global travel. Do note that illusions of Meepo do not benefit from Ransack, so when trying to leverage illusions of Meepo against his own team, it won't be as potent. With Chaos Knight's upgraded Phantasm and the Phantasmagoria facet, he will create a strong illusion of every Meepo clone. It's pretty busted. We hope this video has given you some valuable insight into how illusions work in Dota 2. There are a myriad of spells that interact differently with illusions than they do heroes, so it's always a complicated subject to discuss. If there's anything you think we missed or have any questions, please as always leave them in the comments below, and I or a member of the team will get back to you as soon as we can. If you haven't already, check out this playlist where we and other creators on YouTube break down specific mechanics of the game we all love. Good luck and happy gaming.